What's good? It's your boy Fanon. This morning, I'm going to talk about an article that came out in Boxing Scene yesterday. And something that was, man, it's kind of disturbing, man, because they wrote this article about with this headline and referenced an interview that Chris Byrd did that I'm familiar with. I didn't do a video on it, on the interview that Chris Byrd did, and was written earlier this month in a news article by Elton Wursel. But when you read what boxing scene did on it, it becomes a complete hit job on Deontay Wilder. When in actuality, Chris Byrd was really saying he would much rather face Anthony Joshua. And it's actually an interview where Chris Byrd talks about how the weaknesses of both Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua compared to better boxers, and compares Anthony Joshua to Jameel Mcline. And if you guys don't remember who Jameel Mcline is, let me assure you, comparing Anthony Joshua to Jameel Mcline is not a tremendous compliment. But let me go through both of these articles, and you can hear. Now, I have to assume that this article by Boxing Scene was given to them or written to them as a marketing piece for Anthony Joshua, because it treats Anthony Joshua very, very well. And even just the way that they word just the way that they phrase things with Deontay Wilder really does show that this is a clear hit piece on Deontay Wilder. And one of the reasons, man, that I consistently make videos about this Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua thing, because when the mainstream established boxing press do things like this, it really does sour. It's an attempt to sour the boxing public on one boxer, to the detriment of one boxer and to the advantage of another boxer. Now, before I go into that, thank you to everybody that is a subscriber to the channel. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, and that way you can know when we release new videos, and also when we have our live streams. And also thank you to everybody that supports the channel through the super chats and the live streams, the Venmo and the Patreon. And we have a consistent group of people that do that. I'm telling you, I thank you very, very much for supporting the cause. Now, look, this is the article from Boxing Scene. And I'm going to go through this, and I want you just to listen to the way that Boxing Scene describes the two champions. And then I'm going to go through the article, and then I'm going to actually go through and what the full article that came out 11 days ago actually said. Chris Byrd, this is the Boxing Scene. Wilder can't take pressure. Almost lost to old man. Now, do you hear how he says this? The first off the bat is that Chris Byrd is insulting Deontay Wilder. Can't take pressure. Almost lost to old man. Former heavyweight champion Chris Byrd is very impressed with the current heavyweight champions, WBC belt holder Deontay Wilder, and IBF, IBO, WBA, WBO unified king Anthony Joshua. Now, if you were taking a college entrance exam, and somebody asked you, who does the author like more, Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder? The answer to that question would be Anthony Joshua. And why would that be? WBC belt holder Deontay Wilder, unified king Anthony Joshua. Belt holder Deontay Wilder, king Anthony Joshua. But let me move forward, because the whole way that this thing is formulated is so bent in favor of Deontay Wilder, man, that it really did take me back, because I read Boxing Scene on a regular basis, and I've noticed this from here to there, but this push for Anthony Joshua, clearly somebody is lobbying heavily I've seen more and more articles coming out of boxing scene that are clearly written by the UK correspondents. They're taking articles, and I mean, I think that this phrasing and the way that they spun this article is just tremendously unfair. The two large heavyweights are in position to fight each other in less than a year. Right, as if, man. They're currently working out the details, and the contest scheduled to take place by the end of the year or in the first quarter of 2019. Byrd believes Wilder's weakness is his inability to handle pressure. Just right. That's the whole article's about. This article starts off in the beginning talking about the weaknesses of Deontay Wilder. He felt Cuban Luis Ortiz was a few punches away from knocking out Wilder in March. Wilder was in serious trouble in the seventh round of the bout, and he appeared to be on the verge of getting knocked out, but survived and came back to knock out Ortiz in the 10th. If Joshua applies good pressure and stays smart, Byrd believes the British superstar can beat Wilder. Deontay Wilder is a scary monster, but he's beatable just like anybody else. In Wilder's last fight, that old man was getting ready to stop him. Ortiz is at least 45 years of age. Had he thrown 3 or 4 more punches, he would have stopped Wilder. So if Anthony Joshua puts pressure on him, he might win. Wilder can't take pressure. If you do it the right way and use solid defense to get close, he can't take it. But if you give that man distance and find yourself in his range at the end of his punches, he will knock your head clean off. He has the power. He has power that's unbelievable. As far as styles, now look, this article's almost done. And what they basically have said, this whole article, is that Chris Byrd has said that Deontay Wilder is a belt holder and Anthony Joshua is a unified king, that Deontay Wilder can't take pressure and almost got knocked out by an old man, and that if Anthony Joshua pressures him, then he can beat him, because Deontay Wilder has unbelievable power, but he can be beaten just like anybody else, right? For my style, now this is at the very end, they give just a glimpse of what the meat of the real article was. For my style, Joshua would have been nice. The rangy guys like Italian Vladimir are hard to fight. I know Joshua is big and rangy in his own sort of way for a small guy like me, but his style is different. He doesn't know how to use his size all that well, said Byrd. He's 6'6" and a great athlete. He reminds me of Jameel Mcline in a way. Right? So Anthony Joshua is a great athlete, but he'd rather fight Anthony Joshua because the big rangy guys give him a problem. And one of the problems that Anthony Joshua has is that he doesn't use his size very well. Right? That's what they took out of that article. So the crux of the article is that an old man beat up Deontay Wilder, and all the unified king has to do, the unified king Anthony Joshua, because he's a big 6'6" great athlete, is to pressure Deontay Wilder because Deontay Wilder can't take it. Right? I think it's fair to say that this is a very pro Anthony Joshua article. But let's go to the actual article that was written a week ago by Elliot Warnell. Former champ Chris Byrd would rather fight Anthony Joshua than Deontay Wilder. That's the actual article title. Let's look at the two article titles: the source material and this piece of press spin that came out of Boxing Scene. Deontay Wilder can't take pressure. Almost lost to old man. Former champion Chris Byrd would rather fight Anthony Joshua than Deontay Wilder. Now, let's go into, without repeating everything in the article, he said, watch this, talking about Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I love Joshua. Byrd said. Byrd, 47 years old. He's just a nice kid. He can fight, and he's getting better with each fight. I watched him in the Olympics. I heard all the hype. He won that gold medal I didn't see the ability or the potential. He was just okay, nothing special whatsoever. Let me repeat that. I watched him in the Olympics, heard all the hype. When he won that Olympic gold medal, I didn't see the ability or the potential. He was just okay, nothing special whatsoever. Like how you left that out of here, man. Now, he starts to give him credit. He says Anthony Joshua should be saying to himself, nobody under 220 pounds is going to beat me. That was my rule. If you're under 6'4" and 220, you're not going to beat me. I was only worried about the big guys. I had guys like Jameel Mcline, for example, who was 270, and I really couldn't hurt him. That worried me. Anthony Joshua, though, he's a beast. He's selling out stadiums because he has an aura about him now. He walks and talks like a heavyweight championship. The upside of that guy is huge. He's got a great following, man. England does it right. I love what they're doing for boxing. Now, what is he talking about here? He's talking about the hype. He says he's a beast. He's selling out stadiums. He walks and he talks like a heavyweight champion. The upside is huge on him. He's talking about the hype. And then he goes into a conversation that you heard in the last article about Wilder in his last fight. That old man, Luis Ortiz, was getting ready to stop him. Ortiz is at least 45 years of age. If he had thrown 3 or 4 more punches, he could have stopped him. So if Anthony Joshua puts pressure on him, he might win. Wilder can't take pressure. If you do it the right way and use solid defense to get close, he can't take it. But then he goes and says, but if you give that man distance and you find yourself, or since he talked about Anthony Joshua, but if Anthony Joshua gives him distance and he finds himself on in his range at the end of Deontay Wilder's punches, Deontay Wilder will knock his head clean off. He has power that is unbelievable, right? But if you look at what he really is saying, he's really paying a lot of paying a big compliment to Luis Ortiz, because he's asked, who would you rather be in the ring with? He said, oh man, I would rather be in the ring with me. No doubt about it. I'd rather be in the ring. Give me Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua is not tall and rangy. He's not going to hit me on the edge of his power. I know that he's a tall guy, but he doesn't use his height. Since he doesn't use his height, I don't have to worry about him catching me on the end of the punches. And if he doesn't catch me, it's going to be a boxing lesson. And that's what he said about Luis Ortiz. He said in a 4-man, and he's talking about Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, and he's paying Luis Ortiz a huge compliment by talking about how good a boxer Luis Ortiz is. In this 4-man tournament, Joshua Wilder and the Cuban and Parker, the Cuban is still the scariest of the whole bunch, Byrd said. That's who I worry about for Joshua and Wilder. He's the guy I still worry about for Joshua and Wilder. He's an old man, but he's big, he's left-handed, he's smart, he's seasoned, he knows the Cuban style. He's not the best Cuban, but he's still good. That's why he gave Deontay Wilder so many problems. He was like, or Luis Ortiz was thinking, I'm 6'4", I'm big, I'm not worried about this guy because I know he doesn't know how to fight. Then Luis Ortiz will look at Joshua and say, I'm roughly the same size, but he isn't educated mentally. He might catch me, but he doesn't. But if he doesn't, he's going to get a boxing lesson. That's what Deontay Wilder found out. He was losing that fight, and Joshua and Ortiz fight would be the same. It's all about experience, technique, and seasoning in this generation. If you've got that, you can make up for a hell of a lot of ground on guys who only have size, athleticism, and power. Ortiz is a damn 45-year-old man and still has what it takes to give these 2 top guys hell. That says a lot. Ortiz is an old man, but he knows boxing. He can break it down. He's got an old face and a chubby body, and he moves slowly. But he knows things these 2, Joshua and Wilder, will never know. For that reason, I could probably still be in the mix with these guys. With that, the bell rings, school's out. Professor Byrd, 41-5 with 1 knockout, with 1 draw, 22 knockouts, picks up his briefcase, coat, and leaves. So, unlike the boxing scene article, which comes across as if Byrd is somehow singling out Deontay Wilder and saying that Deontay Wilder almost lost to an old man, right? Lost to an old man, or was losing to an old man, and that if Anthony Joshua just uses his and if Anthony and he can't take pressure, if Anthony Joshua just applies pressure, he can beat Deontay Wilder. Basically, he's saying that the same situation applies to Anthony Joshua. He's saying that if Deontay Wilder, now here's the thing. We already know in the guy that they believe would be the same fight, Anthony Joshua would have just as much problem with Luis Ortiz. I mean, we know that. That's why Anthony Joshua ducked Luis Ortiz. That's why Dillian White ducked Luis Ortiz. That's why Dillian White ducked Luis Ortiz. That's why he's not pursuing the WBC route anymore, because of Luis Ortiz. And that's why Luis Ortiz would still be a dangerous fight for Deontay Wilder. And everybody I've ever heard even support Deontay Wilder knew what kind of fight that was going to be with Luis Ortiz. This article should be about a former heavyweight champion who's been in there and beat Vitaly Klitschko. He lost to Vladimir Klitschko. He's beaten guys, consistently beaten guys much, much, much bigger than him. Says, look, man, these two guys have a lot. Both these guys have a lot to learn. And he looked at Anthony Joshua and said, I don't see all of that. Yeah, he's got a lot of fanfare because he's being polite. He said, I see the fanfare. I see all the hype around Anthony Joshua. I saw all the hype around him in the Olympics. But I don't see the talent. I don't see the talent. I don't see the skill. And mentally, he's not educated. And he reminds me of Jameel Mcline. In a way of Jameel Mcline. Now, what kind of way would he remind you of Jameel Mcline? Big, tall, slow, lumbering. Big, tall, slow, lumbering. Big enough where it's hard to hurt him, but really doesn't have very much boxing skill. That was Jameel Mcline. Jameel Mcline made a big splash. And calling him Jameel Mcline any way, shape, or form, he does kind of remind me of Jameel Mcline. I think he's a little better. I think he's better than Jameel Mcline. But let's be real, man. The heavyweights right now, it's all shady. That's what Chris Byrd is saying. An older fighter that can fight with really legitimate boxing skills can beat any of these guys. And Luis Ortiz, who's 45 years old and a good fighter, can beat every heavyweight in the world. Could Luis Ortiz have done well against Evander Holyfield, against Lennox Lewis, against Riddick Bowe? Maybe, maybe not. Would Luis Ortiz have been in the top 4 heavyweights with that same skill set if he was fighting at the same time as George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, Kenny Norton? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. But with this crop of heavyweights, at 6 foot, it's 6'4", 45-year-old southpaw from Cuba, can give the best heavyweights in the world all the trouble of day in the world. And personally, I think that guys like Huey Fury has a good chance to give Anthony Joshua a lot of problems. But here is the two statements. As far as the actual two guys, Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder has unbelievable power. He has the ability to turn your lights off with a punch. And that is the advantage that he has, and that's the reason why this fight's not happening. And I'll say this, I said it before, I'll say it again. Roy Jones Jr. has said essentially the same thing without getting as much detail. Teddy Atlas has said the same thing without people getting into this much detail. If you listen to the trainers in the Mayweather gym, that's pretty much this type of assessment from Chris Byrd is something that could lead them to say the same things that they have to say about Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Nobody's firmly picking Anthony Joshua to beat Deontay Wilder or Deontay Wilder to beat Anthony Joshua. It's quite apparent that Deontay Wilder is still needing to improve his basic boxing fundamentals, but he has an awkward style that causes its own problems. And the fact that he's got Ernie Shaver's power, probably Ernie Shaver power plus a little bit, is a big, big thing. And anyway, so when I read that article, I was like, man, I need to hear what Chris Byrd really has to say. I went to the source material for it, and the article turned out to say something completely different than you would get from the summary off Boxing Scene. And with that, I'm out.